I have to accept this. Got it. Okay.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're here. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the HeartMind Coach Online, home of Self-Care Wednesdays and Business Wellness Cafe Chats and Tips, where we highlight solutions and promote community wellness. Of course, I'm Dianne Ellis, and welcome everyone. So today's Business Wellness Cafe Chat is part of the Resilience series, and it's pre-recorded, so you'll be able to catch this at different points throughout the week. And I'll let you know when this airs. So check your notifications for that for sure. So our topic today is leadership, resilience, and community wellness. And I have with me here Mayor Jim Diodati. And yeah, so it's going to be just a really nice casual chat about what that means for all of us, what it means for the mayor, what it means for everyone, and community-wise as well. So welcome, Mayor Jim. How are you?
Thanks. I'm well, Diane. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. So I'll definitely love to hear what it is that you feel about leadership as it pertains to some of the questions I'll be asking you today. So how do you define community wellness for yourself?
Well, I think it's where everybody gets what they need. And if everybody gets what they need, they're happy. And if they're happy, they're smiling, they're giving, they're focusing on what's right rather than what's wrong. And it's the old, optimist versus pessimist kind of thing. And I know some people get tired of, I've even had on my social media, I put positive quotes daily. And then some people are like, you're too positive, or are you okay? And I'm like, what do you mean, am I okay? Well, you keep talking about, how you'll learn more, from the bottom of the river than the top of the mountain. And I said, well, I'm just trying to let people know we're all struggling. And the main thing is as long as you fall forward, you're closer to your goal. And one of my mentors said to me, every time you fall, pick something up before you get up again. And so the idea being you learn. And I encourage my kids to embrace failure as part of success. It's not the opposite. It's a necessary and important part. And if you don't fail, you just haven't tried hard enough. And every time you fail, you learn and you get smarter and wiser. And I said, make mistakes, but different mistakes, not the same mistakes. And the more you fail, the more you learn, the wiser you become, the more successful you are. And I think when you embrace things that way and you enjoy what you do, you look forward to what you're doing, and you have a servant leadership approach. I think that's what's really, really key. So I like to be honest about what's right, what's wrong, but I always try to take the positive, the benefit to it. And I always say there's an upside to every downside. Even my own story, Diane, I know you're aware that I had cancer 4 years ago, and single dad, running a re-election, very, very busy city. Niagara Falls is unlike any other city anywhere in the world. I mean, we're just under 100,000, but we get 20 million visits per year. That doesn't exist in the world. And so it creates this dichotomy of uniqueness. And I say it's wonderful because we still get that small town feel where people still pull over for funerals, where people still help each other shovel the driveway or rake the leaves or whatever. Yet we've got the big amenities of a big city, great restaurants and attractions and world-class things to see and to do. So we're a unique community, and it doesn't matter if you're the mayor, if you're a religious leader, if you're a business person, or if you're a student, we all hurt the same way. We all feel the same way. We all have our struggles. And when you realize everybody's dealing with their own struggles. So the question is, how do you deal with it? And I understand that. So when I meet you, when I meet any of your viewers, I always think of them as superior to me in some way. And what can I learn from them? And then how can I help them? So that's my objective when I meet anybody. And I think if you take that kind of approach, you don't see it as competition or competitive. I need to get better, do better. I need to impress them. I'm the opposite. I've learned over the years by making mistakes, by doing the wrong thing, that the right thing to do, and have a lot of mentors, is sit back, be humble, and listen a lot and try to help people. Because when you help them with whatever it is that they need, in so doing indirectly, you end up helping yourself anyway. So that's been my approach for the last 12 years as mayor. I love it. I would do this job for free if I could, but I have 3 kids, so I can't do it for free. So don't get any ideas out there. But
You never know, you might get your wish. But you mentioned something about posting really positive quotes. That's a big thing of mine. As you may or may not know, I love to post positive quotes and encourage people, and that's part of my coaching practice to encourage people along. So I'm wholeheartedly fully embracing that, and I encourage you to keep doing that. So what do you think on the line of along the lines of COVID? How has COVID changed the landscape for leadership locally, do you think, and how does that impact healthy community balance in your view?
Well, that's a great question. And I'm going to tell you something. COVID was unlike any other challenge that we've ever dealt with, certainly in our lifetime, this generation. And it'd be, on par with, past pandemics or the Depression or the war. I mean, it was impactful. But even bad things, good things come out of. So you got to focus on that. But I will say in the meantime, this united a lot of mayors. I became much closer to many mayors and politicians on both sides of the border on this issue. I know my one buddy, the mayor of Windsor, Mayor Dilkins, said, I feel the ground shifting under my feet. And I said, absolutely. Because what I found COVID did, it polarized people. And if you're one way, you became much more that way. So you had the people that were, oh my gosh, I think they slept with their masks on. And they were hiding under their bed and they're afraid of dying, I guess. And they were just so, and the media, and it just, they bashed it in. They showed these visions of piles of bodies and they scared people. And a lot of people have PTSD because of it. Still now, they suffer mental health. And it's sad because a portion of our community suffers already. And now they're going to deal with this extra burden of this PTSD. And then you had the other group denying anything is going on. And I found what happened, people were just polarized. They went further apart, where I think the success of a community is finding out what you have in common and uniting on that common ground. So let's not focus on what we're different, how we're different. Focus on how we're the same. First of all, do we have 2 legs? Do we breathe? Do we have blood in us? Do we, and then the list, then you realize, wow, we have a lot in common. And then you go from there rather than focusing on how different we are, which is nutty, but it happened. And the stress and the COVID made people worse, and it did not bring out the best in people. I saw a lot of nasty things. Social media too is the worst because it's a good side, downside. So what happened? The good news is you can reach a lot of people. The bad news is you can say anything you want. It doesn't have to be truthful. It can be hurtful. And people did just that. And where people were afraid to post anything because they got attacked for having a dog. People just got nasty. And now as I'd say the weight and the burden of COVID has lifted, and not to say it's gone, but it's not the way it was 2 years ago for sure. We've come to live with it, to learn, to manage ourselves in it. And I think a lot of people have become better. One story I'll tell you, I did call the mayor of Milton, Gordon Krantz. He's been the mayor for more than 40 years. He's the longest serving mayor in Canadian history, even longer than Hazel, believe it or not. I mean, Hazel had the record for a long time. Well,
She's been
Gordon,
at it for a while, yeah. And
oh
not
yeah,
anymore, but yeah.
and she's into her hundreds now. Gord's only in his 80s, so he's a spring chicken, I guess. Anyway, I called him up and I said, Gord, you've seen a lot. How would it 9/11? I mean, how would you compare the age? And he said, no, everything else was just a ripple in the water. This was a tsunami. This was a game changer. It changed a lot of things. So I realized, the main thing was I tried to have good anchors in my beliefs and my feelings because I didn't want the tide to take me out and polarize me. And I didn't want to become too far out. I wanted to stay centered and grounded. So I was where most people are, where they should be. And so anyway, that's kind of my definition and description of what we just went through for the last 3 years.
I think you touched on some good points there to highlight. The landscape did change, and folks could either choose to go the extreme negative, or to try and become more of a supportive community. And I think a lot of people try to find the balance in between, because there is a need to have an outlet to get the anger out and the frustration out. There is that. But to lean that way consistently can be really troubling, and it can sort of pull people back into a state of hopelessness, which is something that I try to embrace that feeling and understanding of that, because it's a grieving process. So it's a matter of understanding that grief, but knowing how to take the next step forward. Give yourself that time, but move forward. And I think it's a really wonderful thing to mention about looking at the positive side of things, and that can really help. So I'm interested in looking at your servant leadership that you mentioned earlier. Leadership is a rewarding job, but it's also challenging, demanding, in fact. So how have you maintained your self-care, your resilience over time? You mentioned you're an Energizer bunny, but what do you want to add to that and how you take care of yourself?
Well, that's a really good question. And a lot of people are really worried about me because when I give, I give everything. I don't, I don't have any limits. And but people would say, where do you find the energy? How do you, because I do it a lot. And you know what it is? I've realized, so you got to figure out what makes you tick, and you got to figure out how you recharge. So everyone's different. I get that. For me, I like to go to the gym and or work out at home, whatever. And I do that 4 days a week. And for me, I can tell you, every time I come out of my workout, I'm a better person than the person that went into that workout. And I know something happens physiologically, because we're dealing with all this
Serotonin and
cortisol,
all that.
and right. And I need to pump the serotonin. And just by working out, it's my relief. And some people, and I know this, is meditation and yoga, and that's amazing. And everyone's got to find and I believe in that 100% as well. And other people like to walk their dog or pet their dog, or they like to watch fish or listen to music, or I say find what it is that allows you to let the stress out and to let the energy come in. And I figured it out for me, what works really well for me. And the other thing is, you got to eat well, you got to get your rest. I mean, you have to take care. I mean, we take care of our cars sometimes better than ourselves. Like we'll wax the car and vacuum it and put Armor All. Our hair, we'll do all things to our hair and make it look nice. But the engine, we don't, and you'd never do that to your car. You'd never run it till the engine burned out. You would put new oil and you'd do, whatever maintenance and things like that. So you got to remember, treat whatever you treat with respect is going to be taken care of. So I think for your mental health and your physical health, which is all tied together, and then knowing your outlets, and you got to remember to have fun too, whatever that is. I love to go with my kids, see a movie. I love, sometimes that's 2 hours where I don't think about anything but that movie for 2 hours. That's all I think about. And it just gives my brain a break. And the other thing is, for me anyway, I'm very spiritual, and I'd say more spiritual than religious, because I find spirituality transcends all religions and even non-religions. I think most people believe that there's definitely a higher power, a higher order, whatever you call that. Like we're not random. And this isn't just, so I believe in that, and I believe in plugging into that. And the last thing I'll say is being grateful. And rather than complaining about what you don't have, focusing on what you do have. And I really had that accentuated when I was sick, when I had my Hodgkin's lymphoma 4 years ago, and I've always been positive and optimistic, but this helped me take it to a new level, where before maybe I would complain that my kids ate all the yogurt in the fridge. Well, now I'm like, oh my gosh, thank God they're healthy enough to eat the yogurt in the fridge. And I figure I got a roof over my head. There's some food in the fridge. My car started this morning. I'm already doing okay. I don't have a lot to complain about. Look at the people in Ukraine, especially Eastern Ukraine, what they're going through right now. And I can't imagine. And I think I should be so grateful. I shouldn't complain. Gas prices are a little high. So what? That's our price to pay so that people can fight for their freedom, for their lives. And I think if that's the part I got to do, so be it. I don't like it, but I'm willing to do it because it's worth it. So anyway, that's kind of my approach on things.
That's a good take on things, because I think it's about prioritizing what's important, and that's what any sort of gap in what we deem to be normal can do for us, right? It changes that, it resets us. It's almost like a pause in what we think is the way to be, or way to go, or way to think. And it helps us to regenerate and look at things differently. It changes our perspective. And so now that you've looked at re-entering once again, you recently announced you're running for a fourth term. And what made you decide to run again, looking at priorities, et cetera? What made you decide to have that as a priority going forward for you?
That's another good question. You got a lot of great questions here today, Diane. So for me, I'll tell you, I originally did not intend to run for a fourth term. When I ran originally, I'm a business person. I worked for myself for 25 years before I got into being the mayor. And I thought I'm a business person doing politics because I see some things wrong. I know I've got the tools to make it right, get in, get out kind of thing. And I thought, and the problem is a lot of politicians just think in 3 and 4 year cycles getting reelected. And I thought you got to be honest, because a lot of businesses, there's short, medium, and long-term goals, and you can't. Some of them are just long-term. For example, the hospital. I've been working on this hospital for 10 years, 11 years, and we'll be breaking ground in the spring. You have to be long-term, and it's been successive progressive governments. So it's the only way to do it. So that was my plan. And then all of a sudden, two unexpected things happened. I got cancer and COVID hit. So of course, the world basically shut down for 2 years, and we couldn't even get toilet paper. So here we were, and things just stopped. And I didn't get things into the end zone, to use the sports analogy. I got it down the field, but it wasn't quite there. And the way I look at it, I mean, it close doesn't count. Again, as they say, unless you're playing horseshoes. So it doesn't count. And I didn't get the job done. And I'm like a dog with a bone. When I start something, I can't stop. I'm like OCD about it. I obsess until I get there. And I think it's a strength and a weakness. I make people crazy, but I always get done what I start because I won't stop till I get there. And I remember for the GO train, I remember the Minister of Transportation trying to explain to me and a bunch of us at Queen's Park, we weren't getting GO. Just wasn't going to happen. And he used those exact words. And I looked right at him and I said, Minister, with all due respect, I said, I'm too stupid to stop. And I won't stop until you announce it. And I go, and you'll announce it. And I smiled. I go, now can we get a picture? 2 years later, he was announcing it. And we joke about that today. But the fact is, you got to be very focused on what you want. And so I know that I'm close to finishing off things. So what the main things, the hospital, big. This will be a center of excellence. Our hospital was built in 1958. So we need a huge upgrade. Medical science has changed in such a huge way. The GO train, so that it's back up to what they were announcing. They're about to go to 11 trains a day before COVID. So it's a real true commuter service. The new theater, $140 million theater, supposed to open 2 years ago, hasn't seen the light of day. That'll bring another 1 million people a year to the city. Building a hospice. I've decided to take on the project of building a hospice here in Niagara Falls. I want to get that done, and a university in our downtown. So these are things people said we'll never get, things that aren't going to happen. Well, I say that's fine. You can believe that, or you can watch them happen. So they're going to happen, and then I can pass the baton off to the next person, and they can run the ship. But I got to at least finish what I started. So that's my whole point: is finish what I started, and that's my whole mantra. That's my MO.
That's a nice mantra to end our chat on. That's fantastic. Time went by so fast, and you had so many great things to mention. And I'm being respectful of your time because I know there's more to be done for your day. But I wanted to keep you a little bit longer. Our time's run out. But I'm so glad that you came and we were able to do this. And the questions were spot on with enlightening folks about what it is that you're doing and where you're going and what you want to accomplish going forward. So before we go, what is one thing that you want to give as a takeaway for us to think about? Just one thing, and you can take about 10 seconds.
I say a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle.
Fantastic.
So that's our goal, should be to light other candles. And you're a bright light, Diane. What you do is fantastic. You give back, you just continue to light candles. So I think if we all did that, I think this is going to be a much better place.
Oh, thank you very much for saying that. I appreciate it. And thank you very much for showing up and being here. And I look forward to talking to you some more. I'd love to check in with you after this if you have just about a minute. Yeah, so I hope you enjoy your day. So everyone, thank you for joining us, myself and the mayor. And again, check your notifications and check your inbox to see linked to this particular interview with Mayor Jim Diodati. I'll be posting that in the next couple of days. And let me know if you have any questions at all about what he said, about resilience, about leadership, about community wellness. Thank you so much for showing up. And again, this is a pre-recording. So of course, You don't have to worry about anything outside of that. All right, with that said, enjoy your day. Namaste.